Hello, beautiful loves. If you have clicked on this video, I am so excited for you. I think it's a sign that you're feeling a bit of an itch, a bit of a call to make a change in the area of your career. And this is just the video to inspire and guide you to do just that. So I'm going to share my personal experience with leaving 2 university degrees behind me and active careers in both of those fields and what I learnt along the way. So firstly, if you're feeling that itch, like everything around you doesn't satisfy you as much as it used to, and it doesn't mean you're not grateful for it, but it's just not lighting your soul on fire like it used to, I'm here to tell you and remind you that is okay. It is actually an encouraging sign that you as a person are evolving, and it's something that should be encouraged and explored. So, and also, another reason why you're probably feeling the call to make a change is because you've incarnated on this planet in such a wonderful time. So, we were born in the industrial age and a bit of the digital age, but mostly in the industrial age. And a lot of social conditioning and our education system breeds us to be employees, to take life as it comes, find a quotation mark secure job and work our way up, say, a corporate ladder or like an employment ladder. And now we're living in the digital age. Excuse me, so excited. We're living in a digital age where it's completely evening the playing field for all of us. So it's fine and exciting that you want to sort of branch out a little bit and try different things on for size. Like, even 10 years ago, we just had to cop that we had to climb a corporate ladder and get a $2 an hour pay rise once a year, and be grateful for that. But now we have the digital age, which is, the internet and, technology and even AI, which is evening the playing field. And if you don't want to work in that traditional way, that's completely okay, because you could set up 10 side hustles and start a business and invest, and all of these different options out there are now available to us to support ourselves in that 3D way. So creating money, creating opportunities, having resources available to us. It's an exciting time to be alive. So if you're sitting there like, oh, I don't know if I just want to like cop, the lane that I'm in anymore, that's okay. There is nothing wrong with you. But the reason you might be feeling like there's something wrong with you is because there's still a heavy level of social conditioning around staying in our lane and being loyal and, showing up for other people, which is not a bad thing. But I'm here to encourage you to want to serve people and the community and the global collective in a way that lights you up and from a place of overflow, rather than sacrificing and giving a lot for the namesake of being generous and being a good person. You can have what you want and build the life that you want and still be of service to people from a place of overflow. And that's why the digital age is so beautiful, because I can sit here right now with the camera in front of me, a microphone and an internet connection to sit here and do something that really, really lights me up, rather than the past versions of me that would have felt like I need to stay in the skilled labor areas that I was in, where I wasn't speaking my truth and doing something that really lights me up. At the time when I was working in these areas with my university degrees, it was lighting me up, and that's beautiful. But I always listen to that voice in me that is inviting me to evolve. And when I listened to that voice, it inspired me to make the changes and move away from areas and careers that didn't light me up anymore. So yeah, it's really exciting. So if you've pressed play on this video, you might be feeling the same thing. One more comment I want to make on that more collective social conditioning level is that because of the digital age, we don't have to stay in skilled labor areas of employment or businesses anymore. And if you're inspired by skilled labor, so if you're a physio or a doctor or a teacher, like, that's completely fine. I'm not here to, and infuse any levels of guilt or confusion around that. But the digital age has also opened up this can of worms and possibilities for people to share their intellectual property if they want, like I'm doing right now. I'm creating this video and sharing my experience in the hope that I know that I will inspire people to think the same and do the same and expand their experience and become more empowered to step into that lane. So if you want to stay in skilled labor, you might want to be moving from employment to starting your own business instead, which, thanks to the digital age, is very, very possible. We don't need to, like pander to the whims of out of touch employers anymore. If you want to stay in your area of skilled labor but create freedom for yourself through a business, you can do that. That is completely okay to do that. But also, if you're like, I want to put the tools down and start having a yap, that's also completely okay. So this is such an exciting time to be alive. And if you're having that pull to evolve and make some changes in your life, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just responding to the increase in consciousness and ability for us to think for ourselves that the digital age has gifted us. Because as well, with technology coming along, it's making life easier. It's making life faster, which is a loaded topic that I won't go into, but we have technology now that makes our life easier. So we have a lot more time, and that's a really beautiful thing. So this extra time that you might have had thanks to technology also might have encouraged you to start thinking outside of the box a little bit more, or just thinking for yourself, and that's completely okay. So be really mindful on this journey if you're feeling that itch or that call to make a change, that there will be some waves of confusion or guilt about doing that. But that's just our social conditioning, because we've been bred to stay in our lane, to be a sheep, to be grateful for what we're given. And that's just not the way the world works anymore. That's old conditioning, that's limiting beliefs that need to be left behind. And you need to step fully into your power and get really, really excited about all of these opportunities that are available to you at all times now. So I want to get into my personal experience with leaving 2 university degrees and active careers in those areas. And I want to start with the first moment I was expected to have complete clarity on how I wanted to show up in the world and how I wanted to spend my time, and how deeply out of alignment it felt, how much fear I felt by having to somehow have so much clarity on how I want to show up in the world. And that happened when I was 14 years old in grade 9, living here in Australia in Queensland. So that's when we're 14 years old, we're in grade 9. And I remember sitting in, like an assembly hall, and our teachers being like, okay, now you need to choose your subjects at university, we need you to choose your subjects for grade 10, 11, and 12, so the rest of my high school career. And those subjects that you choose are going to influence your opportunities when you finish high school, whether that's going to get further education at university, job opportunities, apprenticeships, starting a business, etc. And I remember sitting there like, what do you mean I'm meant to know? What do you mean I'm meant to know what subjects I want to choose for a career that I'm going to have for the rest of my life? Like, even at such a young age, it felt so unnatural and out of alignment to have that level of clarity. And that resistance to that clarity is something that I've held on to for so long. It doesn't mean that I haven't gained clarity, but I also have this soft feminine energy of trust and surrender around that. So I will let the clarity evolve, and I will make the changes as a 3D woman in this world when I need to, so it aligns with that clarity. Whereas when I was being told at 14 I needed to have clarity on one career that I would have for the rest of my life, it immediately did not sit right in my body. So I went against the grain, and I chose I think it was like 3 electives that I had to choose. And I chose to study German, home economics, and drama, because I wanted to enjoy my university degree. I wanted to enjoy high school. I was a very sporty person. I'm a teenager. I cared more about boys than my career at that point. And it doesn't mean that I didn't want to be a successful or ambitious person. It's just an example of how social conditioning requires us or expects us to make these decisions when it's completely coming from a place of misalignment. I remember I was studying science at high school, and I had a letter come home to my parents in the mail, suggesting that I continue studying science because I was getting quite good grades. But I didn't care. I didn't care about science. I just happened to understand it, So thankfully, with the support of my parents, I could choose subjects that had nothing to do with anything, but just infuse this level of enjoyment and satisfaction with my high school experience. Then I finished high school and decided to go to university. And I'm very grateful that I have an opportunity and I had resources to go to university. And plot twist, I actually went to university and started studying a science degree. But me choosing to not have those electives in high school did not in any way negatively impact my decision or my experience to study my first science degree at high school. Granted, I might have had a better understanding of atoms and chemistry and physiology and everything that I studied, but by no means was it hard for me to understand those things at university. It was just, that's what a university degree is. You basically don't know something, you learn it, and then you get graded on your understanding of that. So if you're in a position where you're feeling like you need to do these prerequisite things for some potential timeline moving forward, it's 100% not the case. So my first university degree was an exercise science degree, and the way that the university I went to structured it was you do exercise science under this umbrella of it being pre-physio. So as I mentioned, I was a very sporty person, and I realized I'm not going to make a living. I'm not like at a level where I can be a professional athlete and make a living off being a sporty person, but I love this area. So I'm going to go and study physiotherapy and help other athletes along the way. So I did my exercise science degree under this umbrella of pre-physio, and I loved it. I actually got a job in admin working in physio clinics because I wanted to know what the industry and the environment was going to be like. And I did the 3-year degree and finished it. And it was basically you did the undergraduate degree and then moved into a postgraduate master's degree for physiotherapy. I remember when I'd finished my bachelor's degree, I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if this area of education and expertise and the career path is exactly what I want anymore. And I'm so, so grateful that I decided to get admin jobs and roles in these physio areas because I got to be a fly on the wall of where I was heading in my career. And it was not an area I wanted to move into. And at the time, that's obviously a really hard and uncomfortable pill to swallow, but it's only uncomfortable for a little while until you can sit there and get really familiar with why I felt like that. So the reasons I didn't want to move into physiotherapy was because I am such an outdoorsy person. I love being out in the world and meeting people and connecting and having sunshine on my skin and, you name it. I love being out in the world, getting fresh air, etc. And I'm working in these physio clinics, in these support roles, watching physios be overworked and underpaid and work in a room with no windows for 8 to 10, 12 hours a day. And even though I enjoyed what I would be providing as a physio, like someone's had an ACL injury and I can help them recover, the environment with which I had to create that career was not in alignment with me. And it's so important for yourself. This is a reflective moment now. It's so important to be mindful that we are allowed to question the environment and the community with which we want to share our career experience with and our sense of purpose. So I was like, do I want to sit in a white room with no windows for 12 hours a day, helping people with their back problems that essentially just want a quick fix and not actually to educate themselves about their injuries or move from a sedentary lifestyle to a more active lifestyle? So when the time came to do my interview to get into the Masters of Physio, I declined the interview and I decided to take a year to get to know myself. I went straight out of high school into my university degree because that is that level of social conditioning of, well, what are you doing with the world? How are you going to help people? How are you going to show up? So, as I explained, I was like, I was very sporty. Why don't I do physio? And it served me while I was studying it. But also, that was over a 3-year period and I was evolving as a person. So by the time I got to the end of my degree, I was a completely different person compared to the woman that started the degree. So that's a long period of time to still be passionate about the same thing. And if you're passionate about the one thing for your entire life, good on you. You're probably not still watching this video. But I'm here to speak to those people that want to explore different areas, different interests in the namesake of evolving and getting to know themselves. It's a completely natural process to go through. So I took that year, that gap year, went traveling. I moved, 2 hours away. I was like my life just looked completely different and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And towards the end of that year, I remember my partner at the time was surfing and I was exploring some rock pools right along where he was surfing. And I was like, I love being outside. I love nature. I've always been connected to the ocean and I love getting to understand this and explore this. And then it hit me like one of the most profound epiphanies I've ever had. And I was like, I'm going to go back to university and study marine biology. I've always wanted to be a marine biologist. That was something I wanted to do as a child. And a lot of the time, what we want to do as a child is actually what we want to do as an adult. But we get caught up in the system and the social conditioning, and we won't do exactly what we want to do. So imagine me on my knees in a rock pool, realizing that this is what I wanted to do. I'd been floating in this void of like a lack of clarity and confusion for a while, and that's uncomfortable, but I was also very much enjoying my experience of getting to know myself. So it's like a dance of, yes, I'm out of my comfort zone, yes, I don't have clarity, but I know it will come. And I completely surrendered to that. And indeed, it did come. I'm on my knees in a rock pool, bawling my eyes out with the huge hit of clarity that came from that epiphany. I was like, I loved studying. I loved learning things. I loved nature. And I'm going to go back and study and save the planet and get into conservation. So that's exactly what I did. I went back to university, started my second degree, and completed that. It was an incredible experience. I had so many amazing opportunities, a lot of volunteering experience. And then I was lucky enough to be offered a job, an entry-level job, before I'd even finished my degree in an area of academic research. And if you've ever worked in conservation, or maybe you haven't, it is incredibly hard to get paid work. It is a very competitive area. And the fact that I was approached by one of my lecturers being offered this entry-level job as a research assistant in his global research project that he'd just been afforded with, funding and everything, it was just absolutely unheard of. And it was such a thumbs up from the universe that, yes, this is the path that I'm going to be on. So I finished my degree and started working as an academic researcher in the area of conservation. And I really, really loved it. Except the same feelings came back. I was working in an industry that didn't align with me. As much as I was enjoying making a difference, it also came at the expense of a lot of personal sacrifice for myself. I had to sacrifice my mental health. I had to sacrifice a work-life balance. I had to sacrifice finances. And all of these areas I had to compromise to keep working towards something that I was passionate about. And that feeling and that discomfort got more and more uncomfortable. It got louder. It was just screaming at me to have a look at where I was going with my life again, a second time. And the industry I could see all the red flags. I was working in an area of academic research, but realizing that the red tape and the bureaucracy of policy making and politics in general were severely hindering me being able to make any difference. And I was becoming burnt out. I was becoming resentful, and I was losing a lot of passion for what I was doing because it actually didn't feel like I was making a change. The industry I was working in as well, it was also very archaic. It was a lot of sexism, there was a lot of toxicity, and because of the competitiveness and the lack of the imbalance with the supply and the demand, a lot of toxicity came from that. And again, I remember one day I was surfing before work and I'm out in the ocean and some dolphins popped up and then some migrating humpback whales came through. And I was like, I love the ocean so much, but I have to get out of the water soon and go and sit in a very uninspiring environment, potentially in a lab or at my desk for the rest of the day in order to save this environment. And I know I was making a difference, but it wasn't in a way that was completely 100% lining up with my values. And I listened to that discomfort and I decided to move out of that industry. Thankfully, that was back in 2020 when the pandemic came through. So a lot of things were changing anyway. A lot of industries were closing down, opportunities were ending. And I'm incredibly grateful that that happened at a time when I was feeling hesitant about moving forward with that career direction because it was basically being taken away from me temporarily anyway. So we had a lot of time to think through that time, and I decided that if I can't enjoy potentially the best job in the entire world, being a marine biologist, and mind you, I did do a lot of field research, by the way, so it wasn't that I wasn't out in nature all the time, but it was that the role and the difference that I was trying to make wasn't fully in alignment with all of my values. And I decided if I can't like the best job in the entire world as a marine biologist, maybe employment isn't for me. Maybe the reason I have moved through so many casual jobs while I'm studying those 2 degrees and decided to move away from 2 active areas and careers within that umbrella of education, maybe that's because I'm not built for employment. Maybe I want to be an entrepreneur where I can have the freedom to evolve and listen to these nudges and these pulls in these different directions at all times. And that was the most freeing and exciting experience ever. And mind you, if you're listening to this and wanting to make a career change but not interested in entrepreneurship, that's completely fine. I hope that I've encouraged you to just lean into that change and maybe go back and study something different, or study a degree for the first time. Or maybe you don't even need to pay for your education. Like I said, we're living in this digital age now where there are so many free resources out there. You can listen to podcasts and Audible books and read books and social media and watch YouTube videos like this that can educate you. So it doesn't need to be traditional education, but if you want to educate yourself in order to make a change in this huge piece of the pie that is your career and your sense of purpose, go for it. And also, I just want to make a point that if you're in a career and it's not ticking that box of purpose, I invite you to sit with that, because we have not been put on this planet to just simply have a career that doesn't give us a sense of purpose. And what's a sense of purpose, you might ask? That might be a trivial thing that you need to sit with. My definition of purpose is feeling like you're actively a part of something bigger than yourself. And if your job, the way that you're earning money, your income, your career is not ticking that box, why? Like, we're only here for a certain amount of time on this planet, and we are wired to be altruistic people and make a change and be of service to people. And you don't need to limit yourself to be of service to people in a way that does not light you up. So you can make the career change if you want after watching this video. It doesn't need to be into entrepreneurship, but that's what happened for me. I just decided that employment was too limiting, too caging, too defeating. I was just so sick of being forced to be grateful for the bare minimum at all times. That's what employment felt like for me. So in 2020, I moved into a space of starting my own business, and it's been the most freeing, incredible experience, because I can show up and be of service in a way, in the exact way that lights me up and gives me inspiration. Also, entrepreneurship gives me the freedom, like I said, to evolve as a person. And I can offer these things at the moment, like I said, where I want to inspire people to navigate change, find their areas of peace in their life, get to know themselves, and create a life that reflects how they know themselves, how deeply and strongly they know themselves. So I am someone that has a value. If you haven't noticed, I am someone that is very highly values the freedom to evolve, and having both of those university degrees and that traditional education, and then following, the breadcrumbs of that area, of that traditional, area of education into a career, it did not align with my value of freedom and evolution. So being an entrepreneur now means that I can evolve every day, and it's not going to threaten my income. If I want to pivot my business and how I'm showing up in the world and helping people, I can do that at any moment. I can close this business down and start a new one. I can start 5 businesses if I want. But the point is that I've made the choices and done the hard, quotation marks hard, because it's only temporarily hard. Like, navigating the unknown is scary, but only temporarily. It's basically, I'm trying to make the point to remember that the fear of making these changes is only temporary, but the desire that you have, whether it's values or to actually do what you love, like whatever the desire is, that desire is permanent and it is chasing you for a reason. It wants you to find it. It wants you to align with it in this 3D reality and actively live it and breathe it. It wants you to focus on it and free yourself from it and evolve into the best version of yourself through that desire. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave this video here, guys. I hope that me sharing my personal experience with moving out of these areas of career and deconditioning from what society expects of us and doing the scary thing and leaning into, but what do I expect of me? What's important to me? What do I value? And I've used that as my compass over the last decade or so of navigating how I want to show up in the world and how I want to be of value to people. Because we have the digital age now, guys, it is here to support us to be as free as we want. And I hope this video inspires you to start really sitting with those big, somewhat uncomfortable questions about how you want to show up in the world. Because life is too short and we all deserve to be living in the deepest, most authentic level of purpose.